Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. Today, we have a very special edition for you. Aujourd'hui, nous avons une émission spéciale pour vous. Welcome to Pepito Live Costa Rica. Our show today will focus on travel conditions and requirement to visit Costa Rica. And in order to understand this a little bit better, today we have not one, but two special guests. Alors aujourd'hui, nous aurons non pas seulement un, mais deux invités spéciaux pour tirer la lumière sur les critères de planification de visite pour venir au Costa Rica. Our first special guest will be Attorney Marcela Gurdian to cover the guidelines that are provided by us by the government. And also we will have a second special guest, which is Phil Eitman, an insurance broker and an expert, and who will be providing us with some guidelines and some information regarding the COVID insurance. The reason why we are doing this show, la raison pourquoi on fait cette émission-là spéciale aujourd'hui, is because we are living right now in some really changing times in terms of planning, and people now are starting to think about planning their holidays to Costa Rica. Les gens commencent à vouloir planifier leur visite au Costa Rica. Il y a beaucoup de confusion. There is a lot of confusion. So today we are going to try to bring as much light as we can, depending on the information that is also available to us. Alors, nous allons vous donner le plus d'informations possible sur les informations qui, évidemment, nous sont fournies et également qui sont publiques. We know there's a lot of misinformation out there. Il y a beaucoup d'informations qui viennent des réseaux sociaux. Il y a beaucoup d'informations qui est erronée. Donc, aujourd'hui, pour faire la lumière sur ces questions-là, nous avons pensé inviter, évidemment, des experts. So this is why we are trying to engage some experts in the show so that we could bring you the proper information. That being said, before we continue, we also want to make sure that people understand that whenever we are bringing some experts on the show, they are not people with whom we have a lucrative arrangement with. They are experts that we figure can bring you some valuable information. And this is why we're very pleased to have them on the show, and they're dedicating their time to come in and provide us with some resources. Alors, les gens qu'on invite sur l'émission, c'est des gens qui viennent nous partager leur temps. C'est des gens, c'est important de le mentionner, c'est pas des gens avec qui nous avons des associations d'affaires et ce n'est pas pour nous une initiative qui est lucrative. So this show is totally non-profit. It's a non-profit venture. Important to mention that. Our objective is to provide the viewers with some answers. Also, amigos, if you haven't had the chance to subscribe to the show via our YouTube channel, this is the moment to do so. Si vous ne l'avez pas encore fait, c'est le temps de devenir membre via notre canal YouTube. You could also share the show, and you could also, once you're subscribed, actually go back and review all of our past shows also. At the end of the show today, par la fin de l'émission aujourd'hui, we are going to put in the show description on YouTube some of the latest documents that have been available to the public regarding planning your trips to Costa Rica. OK? Donc, nous allons publier dans la description de l'émission du canal YouTube, à la fin de l'émission, des documents qui seront disponibles en français, traduits du gouvernement du Costa Rica, and they will cover the following topics. They will be the Costa Rica Travel Advisory from the Embassy of Costa Rica. There will be the requirements for entering the country from the Ministry of Tourism, or the ICT. You will also find the guidelines to enter the country by air, by airplane. You will also find the driver's license extension protocols, and you will find that. Alors, vous allez trouver tous ces documents-là. Évidemment aussi en français, les avis de voyage de l'ambassade du Costa Rica, les conditions d'entrée dans le Costa Rica, les lignes directrices pour les voyageurs aériens, les extensions pour les permis de conduire. Alors, those documents will be available in French and also of course, in English. Now, what it is very important to say that those are the latest documents that have been published. C'est les derniers documents qui ont été publiés. And like we're going to be repeating in the show several times today, situation has been changing on a pretty much a regular basis in Costa Rica because of the COVID situation. So take note of that. Now, we've also asked one of our special guests that's on the show today, Marcela Gordian. She's very pleased to be here and provide us with some of the latest information that she has. And she's also accepted to come on the show at other occasions also if there's anything significant that's being announced by the government. Marcela has agreed to cooperate with us and try to bring us the latest information always. What is the situation right now in Costa Rica? Here is the situation that was announced by the president of Costa Rica today in terms of the situation, what we have in terms of cases. Telecino, do we have that? There we are. Okay. We're about at 36,000 confirmed cases in Costa Rica, 1,000 new cases today. 1,002 new cases, 1000 nouveaux cas aujourd'hui, 400 people hospitalized in total since the beginning of the pandemic, 143 people in ICU, and 386 people so far have passed away from COVID in Costa Rica. Alors, plus de 1000 cas aujourd'hui. Donc, la situation, elle est quand même toujours très sérieuse. The Costa Rican government is taking a lot of proactive measures, and that is one of the reasons why the information is at times changing also very, very rapidly. So, that being said, this is the intro. So now let's welcome our first guest to the show today, Marcela Gurdian. Hello, Marcela.
Hello, Yves. Thank you very much for the invitation. Merci beaucoup por la invitación.
Welcome to the show once again.
Thank you.
Bienvenue encore une fois. Je veux juste dire que l'émission va se dérouler principalement en anglais, mais Marcela, s'il y a des questions en français, ça va nous faire plaisir de vous faire des petites parenthèses en français parce qu'on sait qu'il y a beaucoup de francophones qui nous regardent. And also welcome to the show, Phil. Hi, Phil.
How you doing?
Great. Phil, you're joining us from Tamarindo area, right?
Yes, I am. And I said, how you doing? Because I'm originally from New Jersey.
Ah, cool. That's great.
I have one language mostly.
Well, welcome to the show. So what we are going to do, so people understand, we just want to remind people, amigos, you could, via the chat in our YouTube channel, you could ask some questions. You can also make some comments. We will show them on the screen. And alors, vous pouvez faire des commentaires, poser des questions via la section chat de YouTube, and also on Facebook. I think we're on Pepito Live Costa Rica on Facebook also. The way we're going to do this, first of all, we're going to start by talking about the criteria of entry to Costa Rica for tourists. We're going to provide some details for that. We're also going to talk about criteria of entry to Costa Rica for people who have temporary or are resident. Then we're going to look at some COVID insurance issues with Phil. Then we're going to talk about driver's license. We're going to talk about border run. So we have a lot of material on the table. So we are ready, gang?
Yes.
Perfecto. Okay. So Marcela, we are going to start with the tourists. Okay. Requirements for international tourists coming to Costa Rica. And we can start with that.
Okay. If I was telling you this morning that the situation we are going to talk about is today, because the rules are changing constantly. So what we are talking today may be different tomorrow, because the rules are constantly changing due to the situation with the pandemic, okay?
Yes.
So right now, the government of Costa Rica is authorizing people to come from specific countries, okay? Only from Europe, from Canada, from Uruguay, and 6 states in United States. That's for now. So
Right
if
now we have
someone,
New York, New Jersey, New Hampshire, Vermont, Maine, and Connecticut.
exactly. Very soon, maybe next week, the government will announce different states, or maybe they will open Costa Rica for everybody. I have heard the rumor because you know that we depend on tourism. So the government is getting a lot of pressure. So maybe they will allow American people to come into Costa Rica with a COVID test negative, and they will be allowed to enter. But
Okay.
I mean, we need to wait until next week. Okay.
So next week we're going to have another update.
Yes. Next week we will have another update for sure. So for now, if someone who doesn't have the residency wants to come into Costa Rica, they need to come from authorized countries only. Okay, they cannot come from Mexico, from Argentina, only authorized countries. Okay,
that's right. So and here right now I have like European Union.
Yes.
I have Canada, South America, Uruguay. See, I have Asia, Japan, Korea, Thailand, South Korea. I have Oceania, New Zealand.
Yes.
Australia and the United States, the 6 states that we have mentioned.
Exactly. So if someone wants to come to Costa Rica, they have to bring a COVID test done 48 hours prior to arrival to Costa Rica. I know it's a very short time. In some countries, it's impossible to get the test, the result of the test in 48 hours. It is what it is. So it's 48 hours prior to your arrival to Costa Rica. And I just want to mention that immigration officers at the airport, they are really strict. So if you don't get all the requirements, they will reject you to enter Costa Rica, and you will have to go back. And they have done it already with so many people. You have to bring the COVID test. You need to buy a medical insurance to cover your stay in Costa Rica, and you need to fill a form from the Ministry of Health, and that's it. These are the requirements to enter Costa Rica as a tourist. Okay.
So, so I'm just going to go over it. We're going to take our time here. So first of all, the test, which is called RT-PCR, ça c'est le test de COVID.
It is really important that the test should be the PCR, because I have clients who came into Costa Rica with quick tests, rapid tests, and they were not allowed to enter. It has to be the PCR test. That's
why we specifically put it on screen, Marcela. So the test you need to have is RT-PCR test, could be in English or in Spanish. Alors, le seul test accepté par le gouvernement, pour l'entrée au Costa Rica COVID, est le test que nous avons mis à l'écran, RT-PCR, et la certification peut se faire en anglais ou en espagnol.
Si le test est en français, Yves, on peut faire la traduction avant de venir au Costa Rica, parce que je le fais pour des clients français et ça va.
Alors, très bonne nouvelle. So we have a first question from Maël48. 48 hours before boarding, not arriving, right?
It's before arriving to Costa Rica. So if you are coming into Costa Rica September 3, at 3 o'clock, the test should have been done September 1st. 48 hours before arrival to Costa Rica.
So that is a very important question. So the next point
is if I just want, it's very difficult to get the test in 48 hours. Actually, the government is considering to extend the time to 72 hours, but they are just considering to do the change, but it's not approved yet.
But we're keeping our fingers crossed. That would be very good news. 72 hours, or maybe even a little bit more. The next point we were going to is what they call the health pass. We're going to put that on the screen right now. And so you have to go you want to explain that, Marcela?
That's very simple. You have to fill the form at this webpage before you come into Costa Rica, and that's it.
So I put it on the screen right now. Once if you click that link, okay, https://salud.go.cr, ok, c'est un questionnaire, un bilan de santé qui est demandé par le gouvernement du Costa Rica. Vous voyez l'image de la page Internet qui apparaîtrait si vous cliquez sur ce lien. So this is what would appear if you would click on that link. And that's a fairly easy test, right, Marcela?
Yes, it's very easy. And also it is important about the medical insurance. At the beginning, the medical insurance from INS in Costa Rica was really expensive, but then they reduced the prices. So now the prices are really, really, really affordable. If the foreigner has an international medical insurance, they have to be sure that they cover COVID, but Phil knows better about the medical insurance, okay?
We'll talk about that with him. On va parler des assurances avec Phil tantôt. Also, une autre chose, if you are coming in from some of the approved states in the United States, the people coming in must have a proof of or demonstrate their driver's license to demonstrate that they're in fact living in those states, right?
No, that's only for people from United States.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, they have to show that they have a driver license from these different states. Otherwise, because otherwise everybody will go to New York and take a plane to come to Costa Rica, and that's not what the government wants.
Exactly.
So they need to show that they have a driver license.
Perfect.
What some people are doing, they are requesting temporary driver license from New York, but they have to be personally in New York to get this temporary license and be able to fly to Costa Rica.
Okay, so that's very important clarification. Okay, are there any other criteria in terms of, besides the insurance portion that we're going to go over with Phil in just a few minutes, is there anything else that we can think of, Marcela, in terms of tourists?
Okay, they need to have a valid passport, of course, and they need to have an exit ticket out of Costa Rica because they are entering Costa Rica as a tourist. So they are supposed to have a flight ticket out of Costa Rica. If they don't have it, they won't be able to enter Costa Rica. Otherwise, they will have to buy the ticket at the airport.
Okay. So I'm going to skip one point forward now that you're mentioning that, because we're getting a lot of questions from people who usually come to Costa Rica for 4 months, okay, 120 days and stuff. And they've been communicating with us and asking about border runs and how to renew their passport in 90 days. I know some people may not like what we're going to say right now, but as of now, the government is only extending, like they usually do, 90 days, and the border of Nicaragua is still being closed. How do you foresee that?
Okay, now, if we were talking this morning that now we are facing difficult times and it's really difficult to make plans to travel because, I mean, if you come to Costa Rica 4 months per year, what you do, you normally go to Nicaragua when the 90 days are over and then you renew your visa, you come back. But now we have no idea when the Nicaraguan border will be open. I don't think that it's going to be open in 2020. So these people, to renew the visa, they will have to go out of Costa Rica in a plane and come back to Costa Rica to get the 90 days. Or they can overstay the visa, but they will be illegal in Costa Rica. So I don't think that the Nicaraguan or Panamanian border will be open soon. So that's complicated. They will have, the only way to renew the visa is go out of Costa Rica and come back again, and they have to do the same requirements again.
Alors, la question, c'est une question très importante. On sait qu'il y a beaucoup de francophones qui nous regardent. On posait la question par rapport, il y a beaucoup de gens qui viennent au Costa Rica, qui généralement passent ici 4 mois, 5 mois. Donc, après 90 jours, on faisait une virée au Nicaragua ou ailleurs. Les gens sortaient du pays pour revenir, pour renouveler leur passeport, pour avoir une extension sur le 90 jours. Alors, Marcela vous a expliqué en anglais que ça va être très complexe parce que actuellement, la frontière du Nicaragua, elle est toujours fermée et on n'anticipe pas que ça va être ouvert très, très, très rapidement, n'est-ce pas?
Oui, on ne sait pas.
Okay. Donc, il faut que les gens, à ce moment-là, comme vous disiez, les options seraient de soit retourner ailleurs, dans un autre pays, au Canada, et ou de surpasser le 90 jours, mais à cela peut avoir aussi des conséquences quand même légales en termes d'immigration au Costa Rica.
See, if someone stays in Costa Rica over the 90 days, if they are stopped by the police, then they will have a problem. But if they are not stopped by the police and they overstay the visa 30 days and they want to go out of Costa Rica, at the airport, they won't have any issues. They can go out. It's only if they are stopped by the police within the time that they are leaving the country, and I mean when they are illegal. So that's the problem, because if you overstay the visa one day, you can face a deportation. And then if you have a deportation, you cannot come back to Costa Rica in 5 years.
Exactly. Okay. Alors, so I understand a lot of people are probably going to be, a little bit preoccupied by that whole issue. And
Yes.
It's a very, very important issue. Now, once again, Marcela, this is what the situation is today. Alors, ça, c'est la situation aujourd'hui. Those things may change or evolve in one way or the other. Honestly, we don't know. And we're there today to tell the facts as we have them in front of us. There's a question, Marcela, from Joanne Jean. Are we required to quarantine for 14 days upon arrival? I imagine that's from a tourist perspective.
No, if you bring the COVID test, you don't need to do quarantine because you are negative. So you don't need to do quarantine. So what will be the fact to accept tourists in Costa Rica if they have to do forced quarantine? No. If you bring the test, you don't need to do quarantine.
Exactly. Therefore,
even we Costa Rican people, if we go out and we come back, then we are supposed to do mandatory quarantine. But if we bring a COVID test negative, we don't do quarantine. And it's also for the residents.
Merci. Thank you. So, la dame posait la question, alors si on s'en vient au Costa Rica comme touriste, alors est-ce qu'il faut appliquer une quarantaine de 14 jours? Et la réponse, évidemment, elle est non, parce que vous allez avoir rentré avec un test COVID. Une question, one question from Dan Paradis. Le test PCR, c'est-tu le coton-tige de 8 pouces dans le nez? How, do you have any idea? I have no idea, to be honest.
I think that the PCR is the one that they put something into your nose, but I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
I haven't done the test.
Okay. Okay, and another question from Ross Vatters Hatcher. Will they consider extending? I imagine he was talking about the 90 days.
Okay, I don't know, because right now people who are stuck in Costa Rica because of the pandemic, they couldn't go out and they want to stay here. The tourist visa was extended by the government until November 18. But now, if someone is coming into Costa Rica, September, the visa will be valid October, November, until December. I don't know if the government will be willing to extend the tourist visa. Maybe. Okay. It depends on the situation.
So far, the government has been pretty accommodating for tourists.
Yes, exactly.
Because they have extended that quite a bit, and I think the government, values the tourism and the fact that there's a lot of there's a huge expat community here.
Yes, and the government knows that there are so many Canadians coming into Costa Rica by November, and they stay 6 months. So maybe they will consider the fact that we like Canadian people in Costa Rica, so they may extend the visa. If the Nicaraguan border is still closed, could be a possibility, but I cannot guarantee.
Exactly. So that is one of the things that we're going to keep an eye on, and of course, a follow-up. Another question from Maël Chacon-Sanchez. Selon l'info que m'a communiqué l'ambassade du Costa Rica à Ottawa, je peux avoir une escale dans un des 6 États autorisés, tant et aussi longtemps que l'escale aux États-Unis ne dépasse pas 12 heures. So what she's saying is that the government will allow a stopover via the States as long as it is not over 12 hours.
Exactly, as long as they are in transit, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that there are no flights from Canada, direct flights from Canada right now. That's what I understand. So the people coming from Canada, unless they are coming in private planes, they will have to go through US, and the government is allowing people to do transit in US.
Okay. And Maël has another little point here. Par contre, plusieurs avocats costariciens indiquent qu'avec une étampe américaine dans mon passeport, le Costa Rica ne me laisserait pas rentrer. So what she's saying, or he is saying, is that with an American stamp in her passport, they will not let her in or him in.
It's attention. If she has a stamp, it's because she's staying in US. Because you don't get a stamp if you do transit. So she has to be in transit. She cannot go out. She cannot go out of the airport.
Okay.
Unless she is in New York in one of these 6 states that are authorized.
Perfecto. Okay, thank you. Mm-hmm. And a question from Natalie. When traveling with an emotional support animal, do they need to be tested in any way, shape, or form over and above what is done normally?
I haven't heard that the animals need the COVID test. I will have to verify, but I guess they don't.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Otherwise, it's going to be very expensive to travel.
Mm-hmm. Very good question, Natalie, and we'll follow up on that.
I will find out, but
Yeah.
I guess no. Mm-hmm.
Okay. As of we know now. Okay. Any other questions related to the tourist section, Telecino? No, not at the moment. Okay. So what we're going to do now, Marcela, we're going to head into the permanent, okay, and temporary residence.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The first point I had is that the residency, of course, the DMEX and the CAJA must be in order to enter Costa Rica, of course.
Exactly. Okay. If someone who has any type of permit, residency, permanent residency, or temporary residency, and the permit or residency is valid, they will be able to come back to Costa Rica, and they have they enter as Costa Rican people. So they either do mandatory quarantine for 14 days. If they don't want to do quarantine, they have to bring a COVID test done 48 hours prior to arrival, and they need to have CAJA up to date. That's really important. They cannot buy a private insurance from INS instead of CAJA, because it already happened to my clients and they are not accepted. So they need to have CAJA up to date. And it's only for, let's say we have a family, and normally in a family, you pay as a family group to CAJA. So the main applicant to CAJA should have the payment up to date, and the family benefit from CAJA for the whole family should be updated. Mm-hmm. And some people, they don't understand that they need to update the family benefit with CAJA. And the problem now is that if someone is not updated with CAJA, we cannot do anything because they need to be in Costa Rica to update CAJA.
Okay, here's a question from Steve Vachon. What if we are in a process on residency? Can we stay more than 90 days? Alors, la question, est-ce qu'on est en processus d'obtenir une résidence? Est-ce qu'on peut demeurer plus de 90 jours?
Yes, yes, they can overstay 90 days, but when they enter Costa Rica, what they have to do, they can buy a fully refundable ticket, and they show the ticket for 90 days. And then once they are inside Costa Rica, they can change the date to go back. But if they are in process, they can overstay the tourist visa. But remember that to be able to drive in Costa Rica, you need to keep the 90 days visa updated. Okay. So if they stay 6 months and they don't drive, that's okay.
Okay. Perfect. And if I'm coming in as a permanent or temporary resident, do I also need to complete the health pass?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Everybody.
Everybody. Okay. Everybody. Okay. Alors, donc, même si vous rentrez comme résident ou résident temporaire ou résident permanent, alors nous vous spécifions que l'adresse qui est à l'écran, ce qu'on appelle le Health Pass, on a montré tantôt la page web, OK, sur https://salud.go.cr, ça doit être complété également. Une question de Éric Levasseur. Je prends un charter en septembre, so this is a charter flight. Une personne en attente de résidence, peux-tu rentrer au Costa Rica sans avoir la clause d'assurance hébergement de 2000? Alors, this person is asking, she's in the process of getting her residency and coming to Costa Rica. Does she still need to have the lodging insurance clause or whatever?
Yes. She's entering Costa Rica as a tourist because she doesn't have residency, so she has to buy the medical insurance.
Okay, perfect. Okay. That was an interesting point you mentioned earlier, Marcela, that, if people come in even with a residency, the temporary or permanent residency, that, we could skip the quarantine if we have the COVID
test.
That's very important information because I haven't seen that advertised a lot in the government sites. So it's very practical and useful information. Thank you for that. Another question from Eugene Aumson. Sorry if I don't have the proper pronunciation, amigos, but is the government accepting initial applications for temporary residency?
Okay, immigration is now closed for the public. They will be reopening September 21, hopefully. Okay, so September 21, we can file new residency applications and also, as I was talking to you earlier, even with the pandemic, even whatever is happening outside Costa Rica, there are so many people moving to Costa Rica right now. So many. So when immigration opens, they will be full of new applications because I have clients who owns properties in Costa Rica and they never got the residency and they wish they can be here right now because they didn't have the residency. They cannot come back to Costa Rica. So it is, it's good for us, for Costa Rica, to know that there are so many people interested in moving to Costa Rica.
Absolutely. And if there's anyone out there interested in the residency process, we have done an excellent show where Marcela, actually about 3 weeks, a month ago, where we're going to put the link. If people look on YouTube later, tomorrow morning, we're going to have the link on the video here. You could, if you're subscribed to Pepito Live Costa Rica, you could go and see that show. It was an interactive show like we've done today where Marcela was taking some questions and answering to some comments from people. So, alors nous avons fait une émission sur le processus d'immigration. We did it in English. On l'a aussi fait en français. If you go check into our YouTube channel, that is all there. So another question from Marie-Thérèse Robert. I'm waiting for my residency. I have my expedient. I left in July, the airport. They gave me a paper impediment.
Yes, it was a restriction.
So what does it do to me?
Okay, because she is applying for residency, she was not supposed to go out of Costa Rica during the pandemic. So she was given a restriction to enter Costa Rica. So that restriction will end August 31st. So after August 31st, you will be able to enter Costa Rica. Okay, but what is your nationality and where are you coming from?
Marie-Thérèse, actually, she's a Canadian citizen, but she's actually been living in the United States, in New York, actually, for 20 years or so.
Okay, so she can come back from New York because having a residency file number right now, I mean, it's not good. It won't do any difference. You are entering Costa Rica as a tourist.
Okay. So could you repeat that date, Marcela, please?
August 31st.
August 31st. Okay. Alors, Marie-Thérèse, le 31 août. Okay. Another question. We had a question here from Greg Dunlop. I am not a resident, but my wife is, who I have not seen for 7 months. I'm Canadian and have flights booked through New Jersey, where I have to stay overnight with insurance, and a test is a problem.
I mean, if he's coming from New Jersey, he has the COVID test, he has the insurance, and he filled the form. He doesn't have any, I mean, he will be able to enter Costa Rica.
Excellent. Perfect. Okay.
Also, if something important, if you have a Costa Rican wife or Costa Rican children, and you don't have the residency, and you are not coming from an authorized country, you are able to enter Costa Rica. But you need to show that you have a Costa Rican wife or a Costa Rican child. You need to have the marriage certificate or the birth certificate, and you will be able to enter Costa Rica. Of course, you need to have the COVID test or do mandatory quarantine and the form.
OK, yes, of course. OK, précision de Éric Levasseur. J'ai oublié de mentionner que j'ai une maison et j'ai déjà des assurances Blue Cross du Costa Rica et je paie à l'année et qui me couvre pour le COVID. So what he's saying is that he has property in Costa Rica. That's a very good point. We're going to come back and develop a little bit on that because there's some myths about that out there also. And he says he's covered by Blue Cross. Maybe this is more a question for Phil, and he says that he's already covered for COVID by Blue Cross. COVID, you want to, Phil, you want to just jump in on this one? He has property in Costa Rica, and he says that he's got Blue Cross coverage already, and that COVID is already covered for him by Blue Cross.
The rules are, the best way I can explain it this way, the rules were 100% restricted just a few weeks ago, and they're taking baby steps, loosening them up a little bit more. And each time they loosen them up, there's nothing really absolute as to all these variables that some people are asking, like in this particular case. Right now, to be 100% comfortable, you need to have this special INS coverage, for travel insurance. If you have Blue Cross Blue Shield or any of the other companies, then even though they cover for COVID, right now, though it may be possible, where some agencies are saying it's possible, you may not need INS, but the problem really could be with the immigration officials at the airport. They always kind of march to their own tune anyway, and it's to be on the safe side. If it was me, I would buy the INS insurance. I've been here for 16 years. I've been an insurance broker for 10, issuing over 2,000 policies, all kinds, to expats. That's my business. And the last thing you want to do is get stuck at the airport. If you're, we've had some clients that actually, one thing to bring up, from Colorado, who, as an example, who sold their house, sold everything, and were moving to Nassau, and they were left without a home. Luckily, the husband was from the UK, so they flew to the UK, which is an accepted country. They quarantined in the UK for 2 weeks. You can go to another country that's acceptable and quarantine for 2 weeks, and then they end up flying to Costa Rica. Now, what you really need to do, the rule was really changed just to allow tourists into the country. So thinking just like a tourist coming to the country, you would have an entry date and an exit date, and then you would have the insurance for that period of time. If you overstay your visa, it's always been a problem, but I got a feeling it's going to be a lot more serious this time. So they may come looking for you, because when you come into the country as a tourist visa, on a tourist, you actually have to report where you are staying, yes. Correct, Marcela?
Yeah.
So so when you come in, they're going to say which hotel you're staying at, what address you're staying at, and if things don't open up, say in 90 days at the end, and you don't show up for your flight because they have a record of that, and if things deteriorate, which I hope they don't here, they may come looking for you, say, why didn't you take your flight?
Okay.
That's what I would expect, because they do check on people here.
Perfect. Thank you for that precision. Marcela, before we head more into, with Phil back into a little bit more of a nitty-gritty stuff about insurance, is there anything else in terms of criteria that you think that we may have forgotten or missed that we should communicate to people?
Okay, something that Phil mentioned is important. If you really want to come to Costa Rica, what you need to do is you have to fly to an authorized country, stay in that country for 14 days, and then to do quarantine, and then you will be able to fly to Costa Rica, no matter your nationality. It's just because you are flying from an authorized country. I have American clients, and the husband is from UK, and they were in US, and they are flying to UK to come to Costa Rica. They are staying in UK for 14 days, and then they will come to Costa Rica. Canada is not open yet to US, but I guess if they open Canada for American people, it's going to be easier for people from California to go to Canada, stay 14 days, and then they can come to Costa Rica. And also, I just prefer to be safe. If one of my clients is coming to Costa Rica, I just prefer that they have an INS, an INS insurance, because you never know. I mean, at the airport, the immigration officers, if they see that you have INS, come. If they see an international private insurance, is complicated. So I just prefer to be safe.
No, it's probably a lot because they're not familiar with it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You will have to do like a sworn statement regarding the medical insurance, so it's complicated.
Okay, perfect. So Phil, maybe you could give us a little bit more of we jumped you right in here. We'll give you a little bit more of a formal introduction here. Could you explain to people exactly, I know you work in insurance, you're very passionate about it, you're very well respected in the community and stuff. That's why we invited you on the show. We're actually going to have you again as a guest next Monday. So today we're going to give some general highlights, but we want to let people know that you're going to be back next Monday, and we could go more into details into a lot of these things, because people do have a lot of questions. We will also provide all the coordinates, how people can get a hold of you and everything during the show. So tell us a little bit more about what is it exactly that you do and what you have to offer. Let's start with that.
Years ago. And then a few years later, my daughter moved here to finish high school, and I looked into health insurance for her, and I didn't even know it really existed, international insurance. And I looked into that and became an insurance broker. And over the last, as I said, 10 years, I issued almost 2,000 policies of hundreds of homes, hundreds of cars, hundreds of international health insurance policies. And our team has become really experts at that. That people can count on. I tell everybody, use my office as your personal assistant, because people move into this country and all of a sudden they have an accident or they hit their head and they're like, oh my God, where's the hospital 15 minutes away, or where's my doctor? And so I tell them to call us first, because I really don't like insurance companies, and like everybody else. So I try to protect everybody from talking to the insurance companies, and my staff is like your angry, aggressive family member saying, I want service, I don't care about anybody else. So that's kind of how we work. And with this COVID situation, of course, when it came to health insurance, we only wanted to deal with companies that are good and that would also not go out of business and also would cover for COVID. Regarding the requirements for COVID, when the Costa Rica government came out and allowed a few flights to come in, the more or less national insurance company, INS, was created a product that travelers, tourists can buy when they came to Costa Rica. Initially, it was very expensive. And of course, everybody hammered them about that, like, this is ridiculous, nobody's coming here. Except the people who really had to, who had property or wanted to get their kids into school or something like that. Within about a week, I guess, they lowered the requirements. It's still not the cheapest travel insurance out there. But they, in their minds, they figured this is the only insurance that will protect the public system from crashing if there's a lot of cases and a lot of hospitalizations, and also financially. And so what things they were looking for and what they put in this plan is that you would have coverage for COVID, and you would also have some coverage for accommodation if you were stuck and had to stay in quarantine in Costa Rica. Most of the international policies out there that everybody buy when they go on their trips is a little bit cheaper, and they actually offer more coverage, sometimes up to $1 million or so, but they don't have that accommodation. And that's been the problem. So as of now, the only one I'm really comfortable with is this INS product. Maybe in 2 months or in a month, they may say that if you own a property here and you're flying here as a tourist, at least they could take out the requirement of having the accommodation, and then maybe your other insurance can would apply. You may not need the INS. But this is where we are today. If you're traveling in 2 months or 3 months or more from now, I would say just wait. Don't buy anything now. There's plenty of time. It only takes like 2 days or a day to implement a policy like this. So if you're coming in January, I've gotten a lot of calls. I'm coming in January. I'm coming in April next year. I come for 5 months. I'm sure Marcela received the same. And I'm like, well, let's just wait a month or two. I'm actually going to make less money by doing that, but that's okay. It's just just wait. And I'll give you a couple examples too where the prices are. I just had some quotes run just to give you an example that if you're 40 years old, I made 2 ranges. If you're 40 years old and you're coming for 2 weeks, it will cost $131. If you're 55 years old and you're coming for 2 weeks, it will cost $180. If you're 40 years old and you're coming for 90 days, it will cost $223. And if you're 55 and you're coming for 90 days, it will cost $306.
So this, Phil, is...
It's most travel companies or most companies, they have, there's almost like a fixed rate per day. Obviously, that's not the case here. It seems like the longer you get the policy, the cheaper per day rate it is. But then again, this is Costa Rica, so so that'll give you some idea what it costs for each person, and you can extrapolate your ages and go from there.
So there's a gentleman there that says, Greg says, I bought INS insurance. So people who may not know, INS insurance is the national insurance.
Right, that's the INS, and well, you bought it 90 days, the price is reasonable. There are cheaper plans, travel plans out there with less coverage, but it's the price to pay is part of the adventure of coming to Costa Rica.
There's a question here. Now, there's a question here from Steve Vachon. He says, can we buy online the INS insurance?
You can. It's a little bit complicated, not so typical, and sometimes people have problem with the links and all that. As an insurance broker here, I do offer this product. It's the same if you get it through me, and just it's pretty easy. If you send me an email, we'll do the quotes, we'll send it to you and give you all the steps. We got
right.
So many calls about this. We kind of streamlined it to make it easy.
That's why I wanted to ask you, Phil, what is it exactly? So I'm, I want to come and spend my 4 months in Costa Rica, and I'm all confused about all this information out there about the INS, and there's another company called Sagicar also, and private insurance. I really don't know. I don't speak much Spanish. Another thing I want to mention to people is very often Costa Rica government websites on the weekends don't actually work. So you may try to get in there and you're just not going to get nothing. So you're a resource person. And like I was saying at the beginning of the show, we're not there more to promote one person over another, but we value you as a resource person who would be sort of like a connoisseur and an expert in the matter. And you could, I guess, by the way you work, and maybe you can explain exactly how you do it, relieve a lot of pain for people who have a lot of questions, right?
Yeah, as I started out by saying, I try to protect people from the insurance companies and their incompetence. And that's why when I became an insurance broker, I learned why people don't like insurance companies, because nobody seems to know what they're doing. So we in order to be successful doing this in this country, where Spanish isn't my main language really at all, is that we had to make sure we set up a system and a process that was catered to people who don't speak Spanish and handle everything for them, as Marcela has done the same thing, I'm sure, on her end. So if you can go to a link, I think, and if it works, and stumble your way through it, or you can just send me an email. We ask for your birthday, your travel dates. We send you a quote that is, I don't know if you can even see this. Nah, you won't be able to see that. We send you a quote with just exactly what everything is. Everything's in English. Every number's in English. Everything's in dollars. And if you want to proceed, then we tell you what the next step is, and then you're done. And also, if you have a claim, we'll help you out. You typically, if you can deal with INS directly, you could do that. I would say good luck with that. but if you have especially if you have a claim. Because it's always, when I give seminars or something like this, I always ask the question, when something happens on a Saturday, Sunday, what's the name of the person you're going to call? And you get these looks like, I don't know, but you do.
There was a question on the screen asking, was the quote you mentioned, I guess, that was for one person or a couple, but I imagine that was for one person, the prices you quoted very quickly just a little while ago there.
Yeah, well, the quote was just for one person. So if it's two, I could check, it's probably gonna be double. If you have a family, we did quotes for like 7 people coming together. And it's the more, I think, there's no standard chart that I can tell you something. So what I've seen is the more people on the policy, the lower cost per person, and the longer the term, the lower cost per day.
Excellent. Another question from Laurel. If you can prove income and a long-term lease, is there alternative for the insurance that is just health?
If you're asking if there's long-term renewable private health insurance, yes, you don't need to be a resident for most of the plans or anything like that. If you're asking about the travel insurance we're talking about right now, your income and long-term lease I'm not satisfied that is acceptable right now in lieu of, because they're still asking for that $2,000 accommodation in your insurance policy. So I don't think that matters for the travel insurance today. I wouldn't risk that, but it could in the mind.
I see Marcela nodding her head like that, saying no.
Right. We're in
No,
agreement
it's
on
not
that.
possible. Yes.
But it could
Okay, excellent.
in a month or
So
two, so that's maybe can change.
here's another question. Another problem, Greg, is that Canadians do have a U.S. stamp in their passport, and if it's only a layover in the States, and apparently that with that U.S. stamp, you can't get to Costa Rica. Maybe this is more a question for Marcela.
Okay. I mean, if you are coming, as I said before, if you are in transit only in US and your flight start in Canada, you will be able to enter Costa Rica. Because the flight is starting in Canada and then they go to Houston, they stay in Houston 12 hours and then they come to Costa Rica, but it has to be transit. I mean, if someone is coming from Canada and they would like to stay in US for 2 days or 1 day, they go out of the airport, they won't be able to enter Costa Rica.
Perfect. Okay.
Okay, and I just want to mention that regarding the medical insurance, the link for INS is supposed to be easy, but it's not easy. I have clients who tried to buy the insurance online and they were not able to do it because the system got, I mean, it's Costa Rica. It's not easy. So I sent them to Phil because it's easier, and they are doing they are buying the insurance through Phil because they couldn't complete the process online.
Mm-hmm. And like I was saying earlier, I've tried myself to go and look at some prices for inns, and I was going to the website. It's not working. It's not working. It's not working. And then I look, oh, we're Saturday afternoon, and
It's
very
Costa Rica.
often it's Costa Rica. Very often, government sites, for some reason, on the weekends they don't work.
Mm-hmm.
So we have here on the screen Phil's email. Phil, correct me if that's not appropriate right here, but we have Phil at all506.com.
Yeah, that works.
That works. And we also have your phone number here, but I imagine you prefer to receive inquiries by email. But your phone number is 506-8707-9939, right?
Yes.
And you're also, I guess, also on Facebook. So there's a lot of ways, I guess, to get a hold of you. And so, Phil, we're gonna have you again next Monday. And we want to mention that to people. So maybe we could get a little bit more into some practical examples, more details example, look at different options. So what I understand from our first introduction here today is there are some options. Let's try to keep it easy. Focus on going to the people who have the proper resources. By all means, also, amigos, try to stay away from a lot of the information in social media and Facebook and that kind of stuff. Go to the experts. Go to the people who know what they're exactly talking about to prevent having any bad surprises. Basically, that's my view on it. Also, we have here Marcela's website, immigrationexperts.com. And also you have a Facebook page also también, Marcela.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, so there's a lot of ways to get a hold of you, of course, also. Before we close the show, Marcela, is there anything else that you figure? I would just want to do a little parentheses on the driver's license. Driver's licenses for the people, for foreigners that are in Costa Rica have been extended.
Yes.
So far.
Until November 18.
Uh-huh. And
that's for now. Maybe the government will extend the validity, but we have to wait. But for now, it's until November 18.
That's right. Okay. And Marcela, I've asked you the question earlier, and I've asked you if we have any significant announcement from the government, because we have our show in principle, today is a special show, but generally our show is usually on Mondays. If you can come in for a little 5 minutes at the beginning of the show and give us some clarification or specifications on any major announcement that may be announced by the government, and you've actually accepted our invitation.
Yes, of course, of course. If it's important that everybody to consider that before they take a plane to come to Costa Rica, they verify the requirements, because the airlines are supposed to be responsible for giving the proper information, but they are not. They just want to sell tickets to people, and they sell tickets. People come to Costa Rica and they are not allowed to enter, so they are rejected and they have to go back.
Okay.
So don't trust the airlines, because they are selling tickets and they need money.
Very good point. Very good point. There was a question on the screen, Telecino. I don't know if we want to get back to it. This is from Ross Vatters Hatcher. I'm one of the expats stuck here, and my previous insurance has expired. What am I required to have? Maybe this is more a question for both of you, actually, Marcela or Phil.
Well, you don't need, if you are stuck here, I guess you're stuck here because you were here before March. Before the lockdown, you're not required to have any insurance, but I highly recommend it.
Exactly.
Okay.
Totally agree with Phil. It's
Perfect.
not mandatory, but it's highly recommended.
OK. Alors, une question, un commentaire qui nous vient de M. Vachon. Merci pour ces précieuses informations. Nous avons commencé la résidence avec Marcela et nous contacterons sûrement Phil pour les assurances. So this gentleman saying that he's already started process residency with Marcela, and Phil, he will be calling you for his insurance.
Yes, Marcela, you sent me somebody this morning with a long letter of this whole issue.
Yes,
we already took care of him. He's already in process.
Okay. Thank you. They are desperate to come to Costa Rica, Phil. So
I'll take care of it. It's super easy. We do a lot of it. We do it every day, all the time, 7 days a week. And if the site's not working, we call them and say, what do you Ince and everybody else. So
it's easy, Phil, because you know what to do exactly.
Right.
I mean, that's why people get the necessary information before you take a flight to come to Costa Rica, because everything is changing from one day to the other. So better to be safe. Don't trust information in internet, and don't trust people, because there are so many rumors. People like to talk. They are lawyers. They are medical. They know about everything, and they know nothing.
And Marcela knows what happens when people meet the immigration people in the airport. All these other stories, those people don't know.
Exactly.
That's experience. That's all.
Well,
I don't want anybody to have a bad experience at the airport. I'm here. You provide my email, and I will be happy to help anybody.
Absolutely, and you'll be back on the show very shortly with some more updates. So thank you, amigos. It was a pleasure having you. Thank you, Phil. It was your first time on the show. We're going to see you next Monday, and we're going to go more into details about insurance option next Monday. So thank you, Phil. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Eve, for the invitation. Thank you, Phil.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you, Phil. Hello, hasta luego, Marcela.
Hasta luego. Gracias. Merci beaucoup.
Gracias por todo.
Bye.